Well, good morning, everyone. I want to begin by thanking you all for being here and welcoming you to the Board of Elections. Let me first begin by introducing myself. My name is Ed Leonard. I'm the Director of the Franklin County Board of Elections. With me is the Deputy Director, David Payne, and next to him is Matt Kelly, who is the Manager of our Absentee Division. For just a brief introduction of the context of the Board of Elections in Ohio, by design, the 88 boards of elections are bipartisan. They have each board has four board members at every local board of elections, 2 Democrat, 2 Republican, and by Ohio law, the director and the deputy director are always of opposite parties. So, while we're of opposite political parties here at the Board of Elections, we stand shoulder to shoulder to carry out a fair, impartial, and accurate election. While the coronavirus may have us socially distanced, we are standing shoulder to shoulder to work through all the challenges of conducting this election and keeping our voters safe. Again, for context, in Franklin County, as of today, we have 883,202 registered voters. On Monday, October 5th, the Board of Elections delivered 237,498 ballots to the post office. Many of you may have been there when we did that. We had a lot of coverage of that event. On Tuesday afternoon, we were made aware that some voters received an incorrect ballot. An immediate investigation was launched to determine the scope of this issue. To give context, the absentee ballot that are mailed to voters are processed through a high-speed automated production system. Blue Crest, our system vendor, was able to confirm that on October 3rd at 2:24 p.m., a function of one of those scanners was disabled. This was determined to be the root cause of the system error that led to voters receiving an incorrect ballot. The issue has been corrected, and additional quality control measures are in place. The software vendor is still working to cross-check all data and determine the exact number of impacted voters. Now again, while this process has taken longer than we would like, we're not just determining a number. We are determining and identifying each impacted voter. So as soon as we have that final numbers determined, and as soon as we identify the exact voters that were impacted, we will share that with the public. Our next vendor update will be taking place later this afternoon. But more importantly, every voter who's received an incorrect ballot will receive a corrected ballot as soon as possible. Those ballots will be coded for security purposes, and once the impacted voter list is final, that we anticipate new ballots being produced and issued within 72 hours. We've also created a robust outreach plan to contact impacted voters directly. And you can see we are located in our phone bank working to answer questions from voters on our voter hotline. If voters have questions, they can visit our website, which is vote.franklincountyohio.gov, or they can call the Board of Elections at 614-525-3100. So let me assure you, no vote will be counted twice, and every voter will receive an accurate ballot, and that ballot will be counted. There are multiple security measures in place to ensure the safety and security of this in this election and in every election. All the employees here at the Board of Elections, whether they're Democrat, Republican, Independents, they are working shoulder to shoulder. Just as the director and deputy director, we're working shoulder to shoulder to ensure that this situation is resolved expeditiously. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our deputy director, David Payne, for some remarks and some further explanation.
Thank you, Director, and thank you for coming out this morning. I want to echo some of the, I better take off my mask. So thank you. I want to echo some of the words that Director Leonard said. I'm David Payne, Deputy Director of the Franklin County Board of Elections. As he mentioned, we're working shoulder to shoulder, working in a bipartisan team effort. We are working closely with the Ohio Secretary of State, and we're working closely with our vendor, Blue Crest. I want to reassure Franklin County voters that the board has a process and procedures in place to reissue a replacement ballot to voters that have received an incorrect original ballot. The Board of Elections will continue to be transparent about the process as we move forward. Voters who believe they received an incorrect ballot and do not want to wait for a replacement ballot to be mailed can vote at the Early Vote Center here at 1700 Morris Road. In accordance with Ohio law and common practices, only one ballot per voter will be counted. Only one ballot per voter will be counted. If voters have questions about their ballot, we encourage them to call the Franklin County Board of Elections Customer Service Helpline at 614-525-3100. Again, that's 614-525-3100 if voters have any questions. Voters can also visit our website at vote.franklincountyohio.gov, where they can compare their absentee to their sample ballot. Finally, we are committed to keeping voters safe and provide them with elections that are fair, impartial, and accurate. Thank you.
With that, we're prepared to take some questions.
Ed, you said that on the machine the piece was disabled. That sounds possibly like it was done deliberately, not nefariously necessarily, but deliberately. Was it deliberately disabled?
That we're working with the vendor still to determine exactly what caused that setting to be disabled, or that scanner to be disabled.
But it was manually disabled, or do you know?
At this point in time, we don't know yet. We're still awaiting that answer.
Do you know who was responsible for doing it? Was it an elections board employee? Was it the software vendor who was responsible for disabling it?
Again, that's information we're still working on determining.
Well, weren't there security cameras in this area to monitor anybody who had any access to this machine?
No, there aren't security cameras in that area.
Why?
It's just we don't have them in that particular area of the ballot room.
How can there not be security cameras? These are extremely the most powerful pieces of paper in the country. How do you not have security monitoring these ballots every single step of the way?
Well, any areas in which there are live ballots are maintained under double lock and key for security, so that there's not a Democrat or a Republican alone in that space, but they're not under camera surveillance. There are many parts of the bill that aren't under camera surveillance.
So, in terms of how long someone should wait on a corrected ballot before taking additional action, what are you telling consumers about how long they should wait before they get a ballot?
Again, voters can take action immediately if they want to come here to the Board of Elections and cast their vote in person here at the Board of Elections. So if somebody believes they have received an incorrect ballot or is concerned about it, that they can always come here to the Board of Elections. But again, we can't give an exact timetable until we know the exact number that we're dealing with.
So when do you think you'll know an exact number? How many people?
Again, I don't want to speculate. We have another meeting with our vendor this afternoon, and at that point we'll be able to have a better idea of when we'll have an exact list of affected voters.
Can you explain why Common Cause was the one that sent out text messages to people alerting them about getting the wrong ballots? Why were they involved in this?
That's the first that I'm aware of it, and so I really can't speak to Common Cause sending text messages.
Do you believe this error could have anything to do with the sheer number of absentee requests you had this year, or is this something that could happen at any election?
It doesn't appear to be in any way related to the volume of ballots that we were processing.
So do you still feel confident that you guys can handle the number of requests that you've gotten this year?
Yes, we are confident that we can handle the number of ballots that are being requested and the number of ballots that will be being returned.
Ed, there's so much rhetoric this year about this election and about distrust. Both sides have got distrust on this. How do you reassure Franklin County voters that this election is going to be on the up and up?
Well, again, we have a bipartisan team at every aspect of this election. So we're, again, working in a bipartisan fashion to ensure that and taking the steps to ensure that every ballot is accurate. So we're sending those accurate ballots out replacement ballots, and that when they come back in, that we'll be able to separate the original incorrect ballots from the replacement ballots.
Should anyone be suspicious about this election? I mean, how do you reassure voters who have trust issues right now?
I do understand the issues, concerns of trust, and that's part of the reason why we're here today, is to reassure the public that we are taking the steps. We have been taking the steps from the moment we became aware of the situation to identify what occurred, the steps we need to take in order to correct it, and then sending replacement ballots to any affected voter. And so, again, your Board of Elections has been taking the steps to identify what's occurred and to identify the affected voters so that we can take the correct steps to ensure that every voter has the ability to cast the correct ballot.
So this that was disabled on the equipment, is that a physical switch? Is this software that we're talking about? And where does this fall within the process? Is this the last step before these are going out to absentee voters?
I don't have that particular piece of information, so I want to get back to you and make sure that we get it correct. But
There's
yeah.
been quite a bit of concern around if we won't have the election results until later. My understanding is these incorrect ballots, if sent in and a new ballot is not sent in, you'll have to count that ballot. Could that slow down results when it comes to election night or the 10 days afterwards?
I want to go through all of those procedures, but it will require us to wait until a replacement ballot is returned before we would make determination with regard to the original ballot, and so those would likely be in the count post election.
Are you working with any law enforcement agency to look into what went wrong in that room with that machine?
No, we're not. So we have not involved law enforcement in this. It doesn't. Again, we're still identifying exactly the time, what occurred, and we're working with the vendor to identify that. But at this point, there's no reason for us to believe that there was any violation of law that was involved in causing this error.
Can you walk us through again the process if you...
Ma'am?
Yeah.
I just want to make one comment. So the vendor tells us that they will be able to identify who was logged in to the machine. So that's not an issue. And we have no indication or belief that anything nefarious was done. This was, the switch was turned off, and it's fairly deep into the machine. It's not a switch like a light switch. It's fairly deep into the machine. There are very few people that have access to that machine, and they all have login numbers.
Well, will you consider canceling the contract if you find out that there was that was behind this?
Look, right now, we are trying to mitigate the situation. There will always be after-action plans, but right now, we're going to make sure that all the voters that received an incorrect ballot receive a replacement ballot. That's our first and foremost priority.
And as far as the numbers go, do you have an idea? Dozens, hundreds, thousands? Is there any indication of a way to estimate this at this point?
Look, we're going to wait until we have confirmation from our vendor. They're working on that now. We are going to have the number, and that will be associated with a voter. So we will know every voter and the number, and as soon as we have that, we will share it with you.
Last question.
What happens if people got their ballot and now they suspect maybe I did get the wrong one, but I'm not sure? What is the process by which how should they go forward? If they simply fill out their ballot, now they think maybe I did get a wrong one, but I'm not sure because I've already mailed it in.
Sure,
what
sure.
should they be doing?
Sure, they can call our customer hotline here. It's 614-525-3100, and we're able to look up their sample ballot and indicate, they'll be able to tell if they got the correct ballot or not. They can also go on our website at vote.franklincountyohio.gov, where they can compare the ballot they received with the absentee ballot that they should have received, a sample ballot.
And should they be comparing the AB style number at the bottom? Is that the correct number to be checking? That's not what you said.
I'm going to let somebody with...
Yes. Matt Kelly, absentee manager. Oh, sure. Because this situation involves voters and every voter has a unique voter ID, local ID, we will be able to track everything. And yes, we associate ID, voter ID, with the ballot style. So those are the two things that are not in sync in some ballots, in some voters' ballots packages. That's what we're trying to correct here. That's what we're going to make correct and make sure those two things match. So yes, the ballot style is key.
So if the voter looks at the sample ballot online and they look at the AB style number, if that does not match the ballot that they received in the mail, then that is an indication that they received the incorrect ballot.
They should hold that ballot or bring that ballot to the early vote center where we can vote them in person, and that can correct it immediately, or they can wait to receive the replacement ballot.
Can you tell us how long that function on the machine was disabled and how quickly this machine pushes out or pushes these ballots into the envelopes?
It varies on how fast the speed is running on the machine. Sometimes the machine will run 1,000 ballots, in a very short period of time. Sometimes it's slowed down if there's smearing or something, and we determine there's a problem on the spraying of the ballot, the voter information on the envelopes. We have to look at all that, and as the machine's running, kind of gauge how fast we can run the machine.
Is this machine used at any other point, or is it done for this election?
This machine is used throughout the election as an inserter for materials that go into the ballot package that is mailed out to every single voter.
So it will continue to be used as people?
As we go forward, yes. And we have controls. We've worked with our vendor, and we have placed extra controls in the system, so this machine can never be turned on and ran without those scanners in place, so this can never happen. It is now foolproof, so we cannot run the machine without the scanner, period.
Are any blue press machines used in counting ballots?
No, sir.
So we hope to have an update later this afternoon, and we'll certainly include all you guys on that, okay? Thanks for coming. Thank you. Thank you. What's that? Yeah.
Thank you.